night, Atlanta had 2 opportunities knocking at the door to beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. Atlanta's a good team. I don't think they're as good as Kansas City or your top 4 or 5 teams in the league, but they're a good team. So there's no shame in losing at the very last drive to Atlanta. But yesterday, I felt good about Philadelphia last week losing. This morning, I don't feel very good about Philadelphia, and they won. I've forever defended Jalen Hurts. He's a small quarterback, like a Tua, like a Russell Wilson. Smaller quarterbacks don't tend to see the middle of the field as well because the offensive linemen are 6'5" and 6'6". And we don't love the head coach, Nick Sirianni. That's true. But we have to be honest about this. A lot of coaches lose offensive coordinators. McVay loses them, lost Kevin O'Connell. Andy Reid's lost good offensive coordinators. Shanahan, you don't see a huge effect. Since Shane Steichen has left, Jalen Hurts has 26 picks and 19 interceptions. Since he's lost Shane Steichen, he has the most giveaways in the league, 26. And I defend him. You can't win that way. Well, I mean, Philadelphia did. They are a turnover mess. This is no longer a snapshot or a trend. This is who they are. And it is clearly tied to Shane Steichen. We're seeing great coaching all over this league. We've seen Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota coach the reckless out of Sam Darnold. We're watching Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. I didn't think Malik Willis was a starting NFL quarterback. He's been, now not wildly productive, but super efficient. We're seeing coaching and the effect it has. Niners defense was way better when DeMeco Ryans was the coordinator than the group that's doing it now. Like, we see coaching and how much it matters. Kyle Shanahan as a coordinator made Matt Ryan an MVP, and they led Brady in the 4th quarter at the Super Bowl. This thing is I still like the GM. I like the owner. I like the roster. I think Jalen Hurts has talent. But it's not working. I mean, if not for Saquon Barkley, who I still can't believe is a Philadelphia Eagle, I think they'd be 0-3. I mean, Saquon Barkley has saved this offense. And I was sitting there thinking this morning, it's like the Philadelphia Eagles are becoming that company with a good stock price, but everybody knows inside the company they got major issues, and the public just doesn't know about it, and they're one bad earnings report from the whole damn thing unraveling. This doesn't work. This offense commits too many turnovers. And you don't have the right offensive coach. One thing if you would lose a defensive coordinator. But when an offensive coach loses an offensive coordinator and the boat's sinking, you got to look at the head coach, because there's too much about Philadelphia I like. And there's just too many good players, good owner, good GM, aggressive GM. They draft well. They develop like everybody else. They miss on picks. But there's just too much with Philadelphia I like. But when you lose a coordinator and the quarterback, who's a talented guy who you've paid, suddenly becomes the single most turnover-prone quarterback in the league. Like, I get that A.J. Brown's not there. Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, above-average offensive line. Philadelphia's always got dudes. Nick Sirianni, I mean, the defense was good on the win over the Saints.
Like, we know this is not sustainable. We said this after the Green Bay game. This is not sustainable. We got to take the ball away, and we did in a critical scenario, but we still lost the turnover battle. And so this is not sustainable to do it that way. We got to take care of the ball. We got to get the ball away from them. But, again, the resiliency, I mean, the defense played unbelievable.
Yeah. No, I'm not doubting. By the way, unlike Dallas, I like Philly's roster. Unlike Dallas, I like Philly's toughness. Unlike Dallas, I like Philly's resiliency. Unlike Jerry Jones's GM, I like Howie Roseman. Like, Philadelphia is going to win this division. I'm sure of it, almost. But this turnover thing is just insane. And it's tied to one guy. He's in Indianapolis. I'm not sure he loves his quarterback either. J-Mac with the news.
Okay. Whew. Let's talk about this. He went off there, and there's a few things, and I always try to figure out, because you guys know, especially on Monday with all these clips and the big main teams like the Eagles and stuff, I'll do like the herd as well as first things first. So I tried not to just repeat myself, but since he's centered so much on Hurts, I'll keep it more around Hurts. And I'm sure when Nick Wright bashes the Eagles, I got my front and back notes that I'll be able to kind of go off on. But listen. I'm not saying that Hurts is like a top 2 quarterback, that he's an elite quarterback in the NFL and no one can stop him. You better put some respect on his name, blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying that. But let's be very clear here. What Hurts did this game and what he's been doing for the last couple of games, he's been playing great. Has there been some turnovers? Absolutely. But the way how he's been buying time, extending plays, making throws on the run, doing all the things that he needs to do just to put this team in a position to win is all on Hurts. Colin went on a whole rant about Brock Purdy a couple days ago about how you got to be able to win when the chips are down. That's what a franchise quarterback does. And he said he went on this whole thing about it. How, what are you going to do when Christian McCaffrey's not there and Ayuk's not there and Kittle's not there, or not Ayuk, not Debo's not there. He went on this whole thing. And then I went on my whole rant and defended Purdy and all of this. And now here we have Jalen Hurts do that. Okay, being down 2 O-linemen, being down A.J. Brown and Devontae, and we're not going to give him the credit that where credit's due. Yeah, the one turnover, the fumble, those things happen when you're going to hold on to the ball. When you have a lot of these guys who hold on to the ball to try to make plays, whether it be Josh Allen, whether it be Lamar Jackson, that's what happens. It comes with the territory, okay? And then in terms of that interception, that's a toss-up because they were even saying this on the telecast, for the commentators. They were like, that should not be Devontae there. Like, they need a stronger, more physical wide receiver. Like, he threw the ball where the ball was supposed to be. Jalen Hurts actually threw the ball perfectly for his receiver to make a play. Then the receiver didn't make a play. So you can, if anything, you can challenge the play call. And if you want, you could say maybe Jalen shouldn't have thrown it. But he executed that play exactly as he was supposed to. He did what he was told. So if you want to say, hey, the turnovers are a problem, and how he pointed to Shane Steichen, well, that's a perfect example of what maybe a better offensive-minded coach is going to do. They're not going to call up that play. They're not going to put Jalen in a position to do that. They will also set up an offense in a way where Jalen doesn't have to hold on to the ball. But again, he was missing because he goes, this is just not working. They found a way to win. And he has... Really, he's up there with the turnover-worthy plays, which I think is more important than just how many turnovers you have. It's how many plays could have been turnovers, like, because sometimes an interception is dropped, sometimes, it's whatever. He's up there, but so are big-name players like C.J. Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, right? Historically, Josh Allen. So to use this single indicator of an issue of Jalen Hurts, that's what I reject. If you're asking me, does Jalen Hurts need to take care of the ball better, more? Absolutely. I am not saying that Jalen Hurts is flawless or like he's the best. This is not his problem. It's all the Eagles. I'm not saying that either. But to put all the blame on Jalen is where I take issue with. Because the dude is doing like everything he can. Right? I mean, he's ripping off some incredibly important key scramble and rushes. I mean, he's making some extraordinary plays when need be, very situationally. Compare that to what Dak Prescott did against the Ravens, and he was making terrible throws. You have literally Tom Brady being like, that was a D throw. That was a C- throw. I mean, Jalen is putting where it needs to be. He's making some really, really awesome throws. And using his legs. I mean, he threw for over 300 yards, and those were not random yards. Those were big moments in the game when needed. Those weren't giving, and this was against the hottest team in the NFL. This was against the team that just decimated the Cowboys, decimated Dak Prescott, who's getting paid a gajillion dollars, with C.D. Lamb, Mike McCarthy, offensive head coach, who's supposed to be better than Kellen Moore, the OC. That's why he's the OC and Mike McCarthy's the head coach. And the defense, everyone ripped the defense. Ripped them. And I'm not going to go too much about this because I'll save that for first things first. But, the defense was huge. They made the Saints disoriented all day. So, I'm just not totally there with it. And here's the thing. Because you're saying this stuff is not working. And I feel like that's a continuation of what was happening last year. And I actually wrote this specifically down because I just knew this was my feelings. I didn't know that they were going to necessarily talk about it in this way, but I also wrote this. Listen, do the Eagles need to have better coaching? Yes. Am I a fan of Nick Sirianni? Absolutely not, right? is your team going to be better when you have Kevin O'Connell as your head coach, Shane Steichen, Sean McVay, Andy Reid? Absolutely. It is very hard to get those head coaches. It just is. And it was a very difficult situation to have Shane Steichen as your coordinator and have Sirianni as your head coach. Like, that's just one of those unfortunate circumstances of how, the coaching timeline unfolded, right? Because even though Shane Steichen is better, you're not in a situation where you're like, well, we're going to fire the head coach who brought us to the Super Bowl and then keep Shane Steichen. Like, it's just not possible. It's just too difficult of a situation to be like, well, that's what the Eagles should have done. They had Shane Steichen in the building. They should have kept him. It's like that would be difficult. That really, really would be. But the difference between what was happening last year versus this year are two very big things. Okay. They were winning games last year, and they were getting lucky that the other teams were really hurting themselves. The other team was having very key fumbles at bad moments, interceptions, a million penalties, right? They beat the Bills, and the Bills had like 974 penalties. I mean, like, it was wild. I mean, like, it was just, Dak Prescott stepping out of bounds to not get the 2-point conversion, throwing a pass, and them being too short at the goal line, right? Like all of these, I don't remember them all. The Commanders could have won. Like, there was just so many issues where you're just like, the Eagles could be like, 2-10 right now, 4-8, whatever it is. And that's not the case here. The case here is that they're not playing perfect football, and yet they could be 3-0 actually, right? Like, it's actually opposite. It's actually like, yeah, they could be 0-3, but every team could be. The Chiefs can absolutely be 0-3 right now. Lamar Jackson had every opportunity to beat the Chiefs against the Ravens. Same thing with the Bengals. They got bailed out by that pass interference call. Whether you want to say that the ref shouldn't have called it or just that the defense, what the heck were you doing? You didn't have to do what you did, and you still would have stopped. And the ball was like way over his head, wasn't going to catch it, right? You just had to be like a competent defense. Boom, Chiefs lose that game. Right? A missed pass interference call against the Falcons that easily would have been 1st and goal Falcons. Right? And also their O-line was decimated and they couldn't get Bijan Robinson going. So the Chiefs could absolutely be 0-3. No question about it. So we can do that about teams, and I like doing that. It's how I evaluate teams. It's what I call the advanced eye test. Right? We have advanced analytics, advanced stats. I call it the advanced eye stats because there's some people that want to just overlook all that. They want to say, oh, no, it's all about the stats, or no, you got to win who you beat, or it doesn't matter how you won, it's the fact that you won, right? Like, whatever it is. Like, I disagree with that. I do, advanced eye test, where I really look at it and be like, how did this game unfold? Who could have won? Who should have won? Who was more in control? Why was this team not as in control? If the circumstance was slightly different, would they have been in a better position, right? I really try to zero in. It's why I take extensive notes. I mean, truly pages and pages and pages of notes. And so the difference was, this year they're keeping it close despite their perfect play, and they're keeping it close not because of the failed football of the other team. They're not getting by on, Derek Carr just throwing an awful, multiple awful balls, or, Alvin Kamara just being awful. Like, no, that's not the case. The Eagles contained them. The Eagles made the Saints uncomfortable all day. And the offense, considering they were down who they were down their 2 starting offensive linemen. And you're expecting Jalen Hurts to have perfect protection. And then Devontae goes down, and AJ didn't even start. Despite all those things, they come out with the win against the hottest team. A team that Colin himself had in his top 10 in his herd hierarchy. I think he had him top 5. Like, those things matter. The Eagles most people had the Packers as a top 10 team, top 5 team before Jordan Love got injured, and the Eagles beat them fair and square. They had that Falcons win, another team that most people had as a top 10 team. They had that win. It just was unfortunate that that's the way it goes. And then they beat the Saints, the hottest team in the NFL prior to them facing the Eagles. Those things do matter. And it wasn't just because Derek Carr played terrible. It wasn't just because the defense for the Saints was awful. Like, that's when you could explain it away. Then you could say, yeah, you beat the Saints, but like Derek Carr had a really awful game. He had 2 fumbles on his own 20-yard line. Like, that's, yeah, we could praise the Eagles for stripping that, but like, it was kind of just, fluky kind of luck. Like, that's what when I consider advanced eye test. I really try to figure out why was this game won. This game was won by the Eagles and should have been more convincingly. The coaching is what held it back. Kick the field goals, which again, I will talk more about later. But just to say that this thing doesn't work, I take issue with. Do you have the confidence that this team, as constructed with the coaching, that they can win a tough game against, say, in the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship game? No, and that is the problem. That is why I said this at the end of last season, like Sirianni has to go. Go out and get Harbaugh. Go out and make a play for Ben Johnson. Like, just try something. Now it's going to maybe be Bobby Slowick or Ben Johnson. Bill Belichick even. I'm not a big fan of Bill Belichick at all. I would still want to know who's going to be the offensive coordinator for Bill Belichick. But, like, you do need a grown-up in the room. And Sirianni's not a grown-up. He's really not. I mean, the way how he was, like, all in the face of Saquon, and it's like, you're the head coach. Stop it. You don't see McVay. You don't see Shanahan. You don't see Andy. You don't see Kevin O'Connell. You don't see any of those real coaches do that. I mean, Sirianni is kind of a cartoon character. And so, yeah, he does hold back the Eagles. But I don't know what the, the thing says try, Eagles, try. And it's just like, I don't know. The only thing that I'll say, if you made it this far, is that Colin obviously really believes in the Philadelphia Eagles. And he holds them to a higher standard. So please don't come here and say, oh, Colin's bashing the Eagles, bashing Jalen Hurts, whatever it may be. They won, what the heck. I don't think that would be fair criticism of Colin, because he's holding them to a higher standard. That's really what it gets boiled down to. When the Cowboys lost, and I already reviewed that clip and talking about it, he's just like, Cowboys are not good, man. They're not a good team, not good owner, not good GM/owner. Dak's not good, right? Like, he really leaned into them. And he's like, I don't expect them to be good. And that's what, and in a way, that's what Colin said. Like, this roster is great. This franchise is great. Good owner, good GM. Like, you have it. So it's holding them to a higher standard. Because if you had a better coach right now, if you had a Shane Steichen, if you had a McVay, if you had a Shanahan, this team would be a bona fide top 2, top 3 team in the NFL. They would. So, yeah, again, Patrick Mahomes did not play good against the Falcons. Jalen Hurts played better than Patrick Mahomes did. No question about it. Not a doubt in my mind. I didn't see anything special out of Patrick Mahomes against the Falcons. And you could say, well, he got injuries and this, that. So did the Eagles. He got Andy Reid. He still has Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice. Like he has those things. And yet Patrick Mahomes threw a bad interception. Could have been multiple. He had 2 or 3 turnover-worthy plays as well. He was lucky that on this time around, his defense held their ground. Unlike that the Eagles were able to do against the Falcons. Like, those are some of those differences. And again, for any random Chiefs fan who's watching this, I understand that Patrick Mahomes has won multiple Super Bowls. I understand Patrick Mahomes is unbelievable. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We still judge them. If we're still judging on a game-to-game basis of what someone's capable of doing, if Patrick Mahomes is doing this for the last 3 games, then we don't have to hold someone else to a different standard just because that other quarterback gets the benefit of the doubt because he's won Super Bowls in the past. That's not how it works. It's just not. Yeah, you got to be consistent with the evaluation. Now, you could say I have more trust in Patrick Mahomes to get the job done than, say, Jalen Hurts. That's appropriate. But the point to say this isn't working and this is why, but then have other quarterbacks do the exact same thing, but be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. That's the issue that I get. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think it really is just try, Eagles, try? And do you trust Jalen Hurts to carry this Philly offense? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.